Hello, creepies and crawlies, and welcome back to another episode of Ice Cream Queens. We have a exciting, fun show for you planned this evening that's going to be a little bit different from what we would normally be discussing during creepy season, but I feel like everybody is going to be talking about creepy season during this time of the year. And so I wanted to cover something a little bit different. And I think that we have got a incredible, incredible show for you. So let's go ahead and bring in Lauren.
Hello. I was laughing over here because you were like, we're going to be doing something a bit different. And I thought you were going to say different than our regular show. And I'm like, every show is different.
I know. Yeah, I know. The only thing that is consistent through our show is that we're unhinged. By the way, I do not have the goat with me tonight.
Oh,
but I do have a rubber chicken. I'm
I
sorry.
think I
I'm over
gave
here
you
looking.
that rubber
I
chicken.
just ripped stuff out of my ear. Did you see that? You didn't see that?
No, it's
I'm
not
over
that.
here looking for the goat because I like to play with things while
fine.
we're having our
You can
conversations.
play with your chicken. It's cool. I think I gave you that chicken.
You did. You did give me that chicken. So I love that chicken. Normally, we will sit around and talk a little bit before we bring in our guests, but we've got some exciting things going on, and I would like to go ahead and bring in our guest.
We also have a shout out we need to give a happy Halloween to someone too. So
yes. First, let's introduce our lovely guest. Yes. So, hi, Izzy. Do you have a moment? Can you give us a quick rundown about who you are and what you do?
Yes. Hello. I'm a funeral director and embalmer, and I've been in the profession for about 10 years. I'm also crematory certified, and I've just been helping families for quite some time, be it, either in the back or in the front. So.
That's awesome.
How amazing. This is actually a show that we have been trying to get scheduled and trying to work on, but as one of those professions that is extremely delicate, we wanted to make sure that we handled it correctly and that everything was cleared. And there are some things that we are a bit irreverent about, and there are some things that we are not. And this is one of those that I feel that we will probably not be very irreverent about because there's a lot of questions that I think a lot of people will have. And but let's go ahead and let's kind of talk about some things that have been going on that's very interesting. First of all, we live in an area that has a tremendous amount. Oh wait, I'm sorry. I know I'm like I'm running in hot.
Okay.
I'm a hot mess. Yeah,
you know what?
I'm
like
running.
I'm going to jump in real quick.
You jump in. Let me
Hi, this is a live streamed show. That means you can comment things and participate in this show. I just spat too. That was fun.
Sorry. That's what we do.
So if you have anything you would like to comment, say, we can pull them up during the chat and talk with y'all while we're talking amongst ourselves. All right, continue.
Oh, wait. And then we have a warning.
Do you want to take it or you want me to?
I don't have my glasses on.
I gotcha. Warning,
All
this
right.
show may contain strong language or disturbing topics, which may be unsuitable for children, and unusual humor, which may be unsuitable for adults.
Yeah, always. So we have someone that we would like to say hello to and happy Halloween to.
Oh, yes. Sawyer.
Hello, our favorite friend, Sawyer.
Oh,
Sawyer Saint Sin.
Sawyer Saint Sin. I love that name. We just wanted to shout out happy Halloween. I know that Sawyer is working super hard on a whole bunch of stuff. So this is for you, Sawyer. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Can we get
okay.
Halloween?
That is amazing. So Eli says, hello, Izzy. My name is Eli, and I can be trusted around cemeteries, funeral homes. Yes, sir. We don't believe you, Eli. We don't believe you at all. So some of the things
okay.
that
I can't be trusted around a candy dish. I get it.
Fair. Yeah, I can't be trusted around a bottle of wine. So yeah.
So question on the candy. Do you have like an urn that you put out front during Halloween that you just put candy in? Just like an empty one. You haven't used it. It's not ever been sold. It's just like, oh, this one's for sale. Also, there's Reese's Pieces in it.
No, all the candy stays inside with me. I'm selfish.
Okay. That makes perfect sense.
I'm a bad adult.
Speaking of, we also do have an audience participation question.
We
I'm
do.
actually-
Oh, it's so
Oh, wow.
Hey! I hope you got your shout out. We'll clip it later and send it to you. Our audience participation question: what would you like to ask a mortician? Put it in the comments if we think it's like okay enough.
Yes.
When we were discussing this show, there were a couple questions that kept popping up that I was just like, I'm not going to ask that.
No.
A lot of people really want to go like straight into the like right into the brick wall and be like, "What's the worst thing you?" And I was just like,
No.
"No, we're not going to."
No. We're not going to ask that.
Maybe
question.
not that in the questions, but maybe something else. What would you like to ask a mortician?
Yeah. So please leave us a question in the comment. We will flash it up as we normally do, and we will allow Izzy the opportunity to answer those questions. And if it's some answering,
That's
we
perfectly
will
valid.
we will let her say that. And if it's something that we can just redirect, we will do that as well, and we will get an answer kind of behind the scenes because like I said, this is one of those topics that we're going to tread very carefully into because there are a lot of people who don't fully understand, and there's a lot of questions that people have, and if you've ever gone through a situation of loss, it can be very it's always traumatic, but it can be a very frightening area to navigate if you've never done it before.
It very much, yes. If I'm over here looking with strange looks on my face, it's because I've gone through a lot of that. And every time the way me and my mother deal is with humor. And so when I think about funerals and things, I think about planning my father's and the silly giggle fits we would have just sitting down and with the family planning my father's funeral. Probably doesn't make sense to other people out there, but that's where my brain goes.
There's some lovely graphic novels along that line of people that have written about their own personal families and the humor that they've had.
So, I want to read some of those. Let me know if you have a list of that. We can pop that in the comments later because I'd like to check those out.
Yeah, I would love to see that. So one of the things that I wanted to touch on is we live in an area that has a ton of amazing activities that are like, for instance, Lauren and I had the opportunity to attend the Vampire and Witches Ball, Masquerade Ball that was hosted by our friends at the Broom Closet, Phantom Events, Historical Haunts, and we were there this weekend, and it was an amazing time. I know that there was a zombie prom the next night, but you have a very special event coming up. Izzy, do you mind sharing a little bit of information?
Yeah. So your event, still seeing photos from it, was beautiful. So this Saturday, I'm going to be having my DJ debut as DJ Dragonfly at one of the longest running goth nights in Memphis. It's called All the Colors of the Dark. And it's been running for about 6 years. So I'm very honored to be a part of it.
Is that the flyer that we have?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When the Cabana Boy finds that, there is a flyer of that. And I'm sorry, we just uploaded everything and I haven't labeled anything. So it's like a hot mess up there. I do apologize.
Scroll.
Yeah, scroll.
Sorry.
But no, we'll pop it up there. It'll be fine. It might be kind of out of, it's like, we'll pop it up.
Nope, that's continuing on.
But continuing on. So one of the
things up as we talk.
We will find it. Go back to that one because that is something that happened. That was for those of us who grew up watching Dark Shadows. We lost Laura Parker, who was the original Angelique. I grew up on Dark Shadows, not during the original era, but yeah.
I was wondering why I saw these posts earlier and I didn't put it together. I thought people were just talking about Dark Shadows, and I was like, "Yeah, it's a great show. It was a good movie."
So she actually wrote a book, which was a continuation of some of the Dark Shadow topics and storylines. And I had the book. She was here in Memphis, autographed the book, so I got to meet her like several years back. So kind of, yeah. The one person that I never got the chance to meet was Jonathan Frid, who played the original Barnabas from Dark Shadows. So I kind of hate that, but I did get to meet her, which was exciting. And then I'm getting messages. Okay.
ADD.
We evidently have questions pouring in.
Well,
Do we want to
yeah.
stop for a second and pop a few of those up so we can see?
Yeah.
Okay.
What are some common misconceptions people have about your profession? Asked by Arnold Edwards II.
Interesting.
Normally, one my age, because the people see a young woman professional and they think, oh, well, you're supposed to be older and creepy. So that's probably the thing I get 100% of the time. That they don't realize, we're just normal people. So
That's awesome. Okay, do we have
Absolutely
another
amazing.
one? Joey the Roadie, have you ever had a body sit up on you?
uh, definitely
No.
not. No.
that would
And it's
be
funny because
hair. I would
think
screech.
I think we've heard those kind of things happen.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, interesting. Sawyer would like to know: would you ever be able to work on a family member?
Well, I haven't ever had the situation present itself to embalm a family member. A long time ago, when I was an apprentice or still in funeral school, my grandmother passed, and my family mentioned to the funeral home or funeral directors that were there that I was in school to do that. And they let me be one of the pallbearers and help and have kind of like a more hands-on role during the funeral. So it was it was different. Like it was a little strange because I was still learning, but I wasn't like quite there yet. But they kind of like hugged me and like kind of brought me in. So
That's
Oh, wow.
sound really really awesome of them. Like
Yeah.
they kind of
Oh
like, oh,
gosh,
one of
yes.
us. Yes,
Mhm.
come.
So actually, I'm gonna where we're sorting through questions and
Okay.
trying to weed out anything that might be inappropriate. We always want to. So you mentioned the education process, and I have actually been in contact with you because I have been very curious about this for a family member. But can you tell me a little bit? Tell us, share what is this education process? And I would imagine it is not something that is offered everywhere. So, because when I was looking at one of the local universities, it was not available. So, can you share a little bit about what that education process looks like?
yes. So there was 2 years of college. I went to college in Nashville, John A. Gupton College, very reputable place, and then 2 years of apprenticeship. Then you pass your national boards, and then when you're licensed or pass your national boards, and then you have your 2 years apprenticeship, become licensed, and then you have every 2 years you have to have continuing education that you get.
Wow.
Okay.
So they update you along the way too.
Hmm.
Okay, what are the updates like? Just curious.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Like, oh, add a little bit more of this in the thing instead. I don't know how much science. I think laboratory with like lightning in the background, and that's where my brain goes because I wanted to do this as a profession, and everyone's like, do you have any idea how many science classes you have to take to do that? And I was like, oh, never mind. So that's all I think is like science and chemicals.
So we've got our baseline from school,
Hmm.
but after you're licensed, you kind of have some freedom of which ones to pick. So you like if you're helping families more often, you could pick continuing education that's kind of like grief counseling or
Hmm.
how to be more effective public speaker. Or if you're more do more embalming, you have one can't talk. You have continuing education that's more like there's a list and you can just pick however many you need to fill up your required hours, but they give you a lot of freedom as to what you're learning. And there's also professional conventions where they have public speakers that you can choose to listen to as well.
Oh wow.
Are there ever like new topics that are like, for instance, there are there ever new techniques, new topics, new ways of doing things that are introduced?
Yes, at some of the funeral conventions that I've been to, it's been a while, but they had an airbrush machine, and they were having any of the young ladies that wanted to walk up and have their makeup airbrushed, just to experiment with it. I really love how that's kind of been like integrated into some of the funeral homes. Now, I still personally use just makeup, but not airbrush because I don't have
Hmm.
access to that.
Mhm.
But I do love where it's going. So.
Oh
That sounds
wow.
amazing.
Um, So we have a question from Arnold Edwards II that says, "Are there cultural or religious practices related to death and funerals that you find particularly meaningful or interesting?"
Ooh, that's a great question.
I would say all of them. I mean, every culture is special. I really enjoy the Buddhist funerals, and but regardless of the nature of the religion or the culture, the core aspect is having that family group or having like those people come together to support you in your time of loss. Like you really need that. Like that family unit or friends that are so close to you that will drive an hour to come see you. Like when my boss, when her mom passed, I drove an hour down to Corinth, Mississippi to be with her. And it's part of that coming together, like that sense of community, regardless of which traditions you're practicing, what food you eat, what God you're, worshiping, just having that feeling of people coming together to help and support you.
I have a question if I could throw one in here. It's a double-parter
Yeah.
though. When it comes to different types of funerals, have you ever had one that was like way too many people? It was like like a party. And on the opposite flip side, have you ever had any where no one showed up?
Ooh.
Mm.
I'm just curiosity.
I would say I've never had one that's like a party, but I would say I have had some that were so, um, the attendance was so high that we had to rotate people out of the building and then bring more people in due
Oh
to the
wow.
fire codes. Um,
Mm,
Oh.
Usually.
yeah.
And then with COVID, we only had 10 people allowed in the building at the same time. So we had to rotate the people out where we were still adhering to the COVID standard of what my company had set out, but
Hmm.
giving everybody that chance to have that final memory and have time with their loved one before they were buried. So we,
Hmm.
yeah. So, and then funerals with 0 people present. There's actually something that is kind of it is something that some families choose, especially how many people are farther away from their loved ones now,
Hmm.
or they live in different states. We do we have something called direct cremation, where the person will be cremated, and then sometimes they can be placed, buried, placed in the ground, and as long as you have a funeral director present, you don't need a family member there, or you can have the ashes shipped to the family in another state.
Oh.
As long as you're adhering to the postal service rules. But that's also nobody present, but still getting the ashes to the state that you want them to be returned to.
Can you imagine being that male person? Like, okay, yeah, here's a cat
No.
food tray. This is someone bought a bunch of bras. Uncle Ed.
Oh,
Uncle
yes, it's
Ed.
very clearly labeled. There's a lot of laws regarding how you ship a person. They have to go in a box that is very clearly labeled, bright orange label.
Oh wow. All right.
Yeah, having actually been in a medical environment in shipping pieces, human tissue. We'll just leave it at that. And sending it on dry ice. There's a lot of red tape, so I can imagine that's something that's probably pretty standard between the medical community and
Yeah.
the mortuary
Yeah.
services community.
You'd
I
be
have a
surprised.
question. Oh, okay. I like. We're not going to let anybody else ask questions. We're just going to ask all of
Sorry.
the questions. No, 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 no. We have questions, and we want people to ask questions because this has been amazing so far. Um, so every job is very different when it comes to what is considered a great day and what is considered a horrible day. My definition of a horrible day, I know, looks very different from you. But so has there ever been a day that you have arrived at, that you've got through your day and you're like, I'm really glad that I was here to handle this particular situation or to be part of this particular situation, and without being too, I guess,
I won't be
irreverent.
specific.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There's like
yeah.
this common
What is
theme.
a
Good days. What's a
yeah?
good day?
What's a good day, and then what constitutes a bad day in your situation too? I mean, just kind of both.
It's kind of both. So I would say consistently, my worst days are the days that families have so much sadness and anger that they just need somebody to lash out to. It can't be their family because they got to go home
Yep.
be with their
Mhm.
family. So it kind of falls on us to just kind of take the brunt of that anger. And I know when they go home, I'm just kind of like a face, like I'm just a person, and they're not really like connected to me like they are their family. And so both myself and my boss, we've been cussed out on the phone a few times, and people have had just a lot of like frustration, anger. There's this sense of loss of control that you experience when somebody that you deeply love has passed away, and you can't control, like, why did this happen, how did this happen, what could have changed, what if I had been there. And
What
then
could have I done?
Right.
Yeah.
so there's that side where there's that anger, but then on the flip side, after we've helped them and we've brought them that sense of control back, you're going to pick the flowers for the casket, you're going to choose the music, this is the obituary, you can write as much as you want, write exactly how you want your loved one remembered, and they can kind of gain their sense of self back a little, kind of bring the pieces back together. They'll come back and they'll thank us, and they'll say, I really thank you, I'm sorry, I was angry. They'll say, like, I cussed you out. Like, I'm sorry. And like that, having that thankfulness is just really something that keeps me going. It keeps my boss going. Like, I see her, she gets thank you cards all the time, and people, they remember how much that they needed that person to lash out at, and to kind of bring them back in and kind of say, like, hey, I know you're angry, but we're going to get through this, or I know you're angry, but we're going to order this urn, we're going to get this for you. And it's just part of it, but it's also it flips, like, it turns around, it turns from a very bad thing into a very good thing. Just having that appreciation and knowing that, like, one, they're not alone, and two, that the things that I do and that my boss does behind the scenes are appreciated. And one of my mentors, they used to say, if nothing goes wrong, then you did your job. Like, if they don't know that you had to overnight an urn, if they don't know that you've got however many caskets that you have to store and pay for each month, and they're ready the second that you need a funeral, that's us doing our job, like, not having to worry about anything. That's what we do. We kind of make everything streamlined and easy. So even though you don't see us working, that's good.
Yeah.
You don't want to see any stress. Like, you don't need any extra stress.
And see, I never even thought about it because I don't know, I guess it's just never occurred to me, but you are not only like the science of the stuff, but you're also like the customer service side of it too.
And
So
the
not
humanity
only
of
you're
it.
standing at the counter getting the people screaming at you, but you're also like, okay, well, let me go, like, I was gonna say, like, go make your hamburger, but that's where my brain went with customer service. Maybe not hamburger, but let me also go do all of the rest of the stuff to you. Do all of it. That's a lot. That's a lot to, like, handle.
No 2 days are the same. There's always something different. So it kind of keeps you on your toes, keeps you invested. There's always something changing.
It's interesting because somebody made the comment to me one time, when you're talking and you're dealing with people in your line of work specifically, that you are interacting with people, your customer base, you're probably interacting with them on the worst possible days of their
That's
life.
good.
You're seeing them
Yeah.
at their absolute worst. And
Yeah.
it's not that they mean to necessarily lash out, as you were pointing out, but you're the person that is going to take the brunt of that, because you are the person who is not related. You are not the person who is not in the family. And I oh God, ooh, okay, sorry.
All right.
I'm
I
just
have a DL question now. Have you ever
oh
been that person, the lashy out person? The one who is just like so overwhelmed? I know I have. I feel very bad for like the doctor and nurse who had to come and tell us we're in the Elvis Presley waiting room and tell us that my father was no longer, he didn't make it. And they're telling the story, and this girl comes over, she puts her arm around me and she starts trying to like hold and console me, and I turned on her and I was like, don't touch me. And
Mhm.
I did not want to be touched, and she just was touching, and I just screamed at her, and then I was like, I'm sorry, but don't touch me right now. But DL, have you ever been that person?
honestly no. No, and I know this sounds really strange. So the most recent loss in my life was my father, who had been diagnosed with dementia, and my father had a very quick decline. and seeing him through the final stages of his life. I mean, we were prepared. I mean, we were talking about feeding tubes and all of these other type of issues and things that we were looking at. So in a roundabout way, his death was almost a release and a relief for our family, because seeing him, I'm honestly a couple of months going from being able to carry on a conversation with you and being able to interact, to not knowing how to use a phone, not knowing who you are anymore. We're talking about December, he was fine. In July, he was gone. And it was very,
Wow.
very rapid. So, and during that time frame, he lost his ability to eat. So, he lost his swallow reflex. So there was a lot of things that, um, honestly, it was heartbreaking. It was probably one of the hardest things that I ever did. But it was almost like a relief to the family, because first of all, my mother was trying to take care of him at home, and she's not a medical person. She's not a care. I mean, she's a caretaker, but she's not a medical caretaker. And then the only other one was, I was very numb, and I don't remember much of it. I'm just going to leave it at that, because I don't really want to talk about it, because it will be
Fair.
very
Sorry.
difficult to.
I asked.
Okay,
a bad
no, you're
question.
fine.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
We did have another comment question pop
Yes.
up. Change of scenery. If we can get that one pulled up, I believe it was something the second, something dockside. Okay, Arnold Edwards the second. Can you describe any rituals or ceremonies that you find particularly powerful or moving in the funeral process?
Ooh, yeah.
This is just personal to me. I again really like the Buddhists. They'll have like a little like chanting box that'll go with the person. Traditionally, the monks would chant in person, but due to how things modernize, they have a little chanting box that stays with the person. I'm not really sure what it's saying in another language, but it's kind of cool to have that continual prayer over a person. Adhering to that religion, it seemed really personal and very special to me that you would have that continuation all the way leading up to their funeral.
Awesome.
That's amazing. Are there any traditions you find people are moving away from when it comes to funerals and internment?
Let's see what people are moving away from. I wouldn't say away, but more towards.
Okay.
So I've been seeing like an uptick in like cremation jewelry. Like people want to have that person with them. Yeah, so there's a lot
I
of
didn't even know that
people-
was an option.
Mhm. They've got some that even look like Pandoras. They're like the little charms that go on the bracelets, not just the necklaces. So there's been like a really wide expansion of cremation jewelry options beyond just a cross, a heart, and teardrop. Like
That's cool.
motorcycles, like flowers, anything you could think of. You can put like a little piece of cremation jewelry in it, and it's like having that person with you all the time. So I see more and more of that going forward. Just trying to have something to hold on to, because I don't think we visit the grave space as often. So we're still looking for that closure, and we're still like holding on to the loss.
Yeah. I like you can have like the charm bracelet. Like here's Auntie May, there's Grandma Judy, here's, my cousin Richard. I don't know, I'm making up names at this point.
I have a question. What are your thoughts on natural and green funerals? And I know there's a difference between the two that people might not necessarily recognize. Or is there?
I haven't had much experience with either of them. I've mainly done burials and cremations, so I haven't really had an opportunity to use those types of tools. I know there's some embalming chemicals that are more natural, but I haven't either had access to them or have people request them where I work. So I don't think I could give a fully formed answer because I haven't experienced it.
All right, I've got one.
Okay.
And this is going to be a weird question, so just take it with a grain of salt. What was the most fun funeral that you've done? Because I can tell you right now, I have this whole thing set out to where I've told my husband, look, if I die before you and you don't have some sort of giant gothic rave party where everyone comes in their like best black veils and all of it, then you're not doing it right. And that would be my funeral. But like, what's the most fun one that you're like, yes, cosplay funeral, let's do this? Like, has anyone done anything like that?
No, not really. They usually, they're usually pretty sad. People grieving. I haven't been to one, but I
Mhm.
have had people say like that they would want like a World of Warcraft funeral or something kind
Oh.
of inspired.
Oh,
Just
that's
people
cool.
that have like D&D groups that want to have like
Mhm.
that same kind of continuation. But maybe with a younger generation, when we turn a new leaf, we'll try something different.
I'm just saying,
Well,
y'all, gothic
well,
funerals.
honestly, and when you think about the party aspect of it, I saw that we had a question. I didn't mean to step on it, but when you think about the party aspect of it, I have always said that when I pass, I want a New Orleans jazz funeral,
Mhm.
where
Oh.
basically, you are. It's more of a celebration of your life than it is a mourning, and it's like there is sadness associated with it. But if you've never been to New Orleans and seen that and had that experience, it's absolutely gorgeous. It's absolutely amazing to see people following a jazz band down the street. And I do believe that in some cases that there is almost like a funeral procession that goes with it. So,
Mhm. Turns into a
but that
parade at some points.
it is very much like a parade, and
Yeah.
there's just something about it, and it's been going on for centuries, so it's something that I
Mhm.
would absolutely. I love that celebration of life versus the um you do want people to mourn you, but I really would like people to remember what I left behind, what my
Mhm.
legacies were and what I leave behind.
Same.
So we did have questions. Let's go ahead and pop a few more of those up because they're coming in. What are some of the intriguing ancient funeral and mortuary practices that have been discontinued over time?
Oh, so stuff they don't do
Hmm.
anymore.
Okay. I'm a little rusty on my history, so I don't know the years. But like where they have that thing where they with the bells in
Oh,
the
yeah.
yeah. Oh
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I would have a bell in my I'd be like ringing it. Get
Ding,
me
ding,
out.
ding.
And
That's oh,
then
that's
The coins on the eyes.
yeah.
Do people still do that or?
So one of the things I found interesting is I was at a lecture during one of my continuing education classes. It was a precursor to the dog tag. They would have like don't know the exact name. I'd have to look it up. So I'm just pulling it out of my brain
Mhm.
memory. It was like a little circle or a little disc or coin that you would purchase from the Undertaker, and I think it was like maybe Silver War era. I'm not sure. They would have it on their person, and when they passed, you find it in their pocket, and that would be who would who was hired to embalm them, like the funeral company hired
Oh,
to embalm. So
I know
precursor
they
to the dog tag.
did stuff like that, when they were mining for gold, like, way back in the day. I know they had because so many people died so quickly doing all
yes.
of that, lots of explosives. Um, I knew they had stuff like that then, but I didn't know that they did it then as well.
Hmm.
Well, I know that also, and I'm curious, have you ever done this yourself? There is the whole lore that goes alongside making sure that you have payment for the ferryman to take you across the river Styx. And so a lot of times, bodies in the past were, yeah, I think that was initially the idea of the coins over the eyes, but that was also I've read before where morticians actually will put coins in the pocket of like whatever, like if they're wearing a suit, or they'll put coffin, or they'll put like coins in the coffin somewhere. And I'm just curious if that is that true, or is that, I'm just curious. That's a Go ahead, I'm sorry. That
I don't think it would be true or false. I've never personally done it, but if a family asked me to, I would. We've put other items with a person, say like their favorite candy bar, pack of cigarettes, things that
Oh.
they wanted, with them in their pocket. So I don't think a coin would be outside of the realm of possibility. I definitely would do that, especially if that's something they asked me to do.
Has there ever been something where they're like, "Will you please put this with Bob?" And you're like, Okay. Sure, but
or
like
no,
wasn't
no, I
expecting
will
that.
not. Yeah.
The only things that are like 100% no, firearms,
Yeah. Okay.
pets, um,
Pets, like
yeah,
alive or
Pets?
dead?
yeah. So firearms, pets, other people, because like when you bury them in the ground, you need to document that there's more than one person there.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
Okay.
uh, trying to think. Uh,
All right. I have a question. Since
yeah,
we're
I do
on the
too. I
topic,
do. Okay.
it is a Mortician's humor meme that I've seen spread far and wide, and it's the whole like, before I die, if I'm being cremated, put a bunch of popcorn kernels
oh
in
yeah,
my
I've
stomach.
seen that meme. I've seen that meme.
What is your
I have
take on that?
not.
I know that's probably never happened, but like, did you giggle? Were you like, or like, what was your take?
I've never
Um,
same that.
Popcorn. My brain was just like, well, that'll be cremated with the person and turn to ash.
It'll smell
That,
like burnt popcorn in here for the next 50 years.
So I would like to go back, and you said that you cannot put another person with you.
Mhm.
So what if you? Okay, so what if you are a? And honestly, this is one of those questions that I'm kind of curious about. What if you have lost a child, and your child was cremated, and you would like the child to be buried with you as a parent?
Mm.
How? What kind of red tape
So
would you have to go through, or could you?
you'd have to check with the cemetery laws. You know
Mhm.
where you're
Hmm.
burying. Um, every time in my experience, you'd have to document that person because that is a separate person. They would need documentation and paperwork saying that this is where they're being buried at.
So that would be like the headstones that you see where it's like loving mother and child. Like we see those all the time here. We have a very old cemetery here in Memphis, and you
Yeah.
see a lot of those style tombstones. I believe when is
And you'd
was it?
want that memory there too for future generations to know that that person's there. Like,
Yeah.
especially like
Mhm.
in my family, if you're doing genealogy, you'd want to know where they are.
Oh yeah.
Fair.
Yes. And actually, something that I find kind of interesting that I'm curious how this kind of works with that. So, as so my father who passed was former military, and he is buried in a memorial cemetery, like a
The veterans
veterans.
cemetery.
Yes. He is. And my mother is will be interred on top of him when she passes. So is that something that you see very often, that you have them stacked like that?
Oh, you said double depth?
Yes.
Yes, that's common. Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
I've seen
okay.
that before. Hmm.
Okay. Um, what is something that you want to make sure that is done at your, and this is morbid, at your own funeral?
Oh,
Mm.
yeah, I've thought about that. Definitely have thought about that. For myself, I definitely would want to be embalmed. I want my hair done. I want my clothes on. I want to be in a casket. I want to be looked at. I want to be cried over. That's just what it is.
Fair.
No.
Yeah, like come
Yeah.
see me. Like this is your last chance. Yeah.
So, okay, so we discussed briefly the natural burials, and you said that you would like to be involved. And I know that some of the natural burial processes do not include that. What would be the advantage to being embalmed versus going through the fully, I guess, green process where you're not? Is that correct? Am I saying that correctly?
I think there's some chemicals that may be more green friendly. I'm not sure. Haven't used them.
Okay.
But definitely the advantages of embalming. It's a temporary preservation of your loved one. Especially if you got people coming in from out of town that have a delayed transfer to come see you. It's kind of bringing them to a more natural state instead of like seeing that at a hospital or like not, like in a hospital
Hmm.
gown. It's part of like that lasting final image, bringing them back to their what do you call it? Like I don't want to say like former glory, but like just
recognizable.
Yeah, like back into themselves.
Yeah.
So like for me, like you'd be like, I want to put my nail polish back on. I want to have my makeup on. I want to have my hair done. I want to have I want to be temporarily preserved in a way that I will look my best, so that when people do see me for the last time, it is is as good as the chemicals can make me look. So I want every advantage I can have in that last moment that people get to see me. And I feel the same way about like when I saw my grandmother at her funeral. She definitely looked so much better at her funeral than she did when she was in the nursing home. So
Yes. No, yes. And if you have somebody in the funeral home that is able to bring your family member back to an element of themselves, it really means the world to people. On the flip side of that, is there something that you see done regularly that you're just that makes you cringe a little bit?
Something that makes me cringe.
Do you want to think about it and I'll tell you mine?
Okay.
Okay, so this was super fun. At my father's funeral, he had a girlfriend who was like only a couple years older than me before he passed. So that's fun there. She came stumbling into the funeral halfway through it. So we're in the middle of the funeral. She's stumbling, I mean, falling over people, comes all the way up to the front row and puts herself in between me and my mother in the front row. My mother, who was married to him for 25 years, and she just started dating him. And she's like 5 years older than me. And then at the end, she tried to steal my father's ashes out of my hand, like grabbed the urn and ran down the street and around the corner trying to steal his ashes. It was very fun. It was a little cringy.
That is possibly the worst thing I think I've ever heard.
There's more to this story, but it involves a lot of booze and drug use. So there was reasons for the stumbling. Also reasons for my father's depression. Cheers. Sorry, your answer now.
Oh no, I don't think I could have an answer that would be quite so personal.
Have you speaking of
yeah,
have you ever have you ever had a funeral where alcohol was playing a part in helping people cope?
No, I have not.
Did they ever do the pour over the grave? Do they do that anymore? Like at the actual one you bury and then they like pour one for the, I don't know what that was for, but I know it was a thing.
I remember that. Now I've never had, as a funeral director, I've never had that happen, but I've had friends when I was living in Nashville kind of pour one out over the ground for a friend. We weren't at a grave space, but it was more like kind of like the feeling of like, hey, this is for you.
Fair. I've been around those before. It's usually outside while people are smoking around a campfire, at least in my experience.
So one of the things that I would like to kind of, as we have questions pop up, we're going to bring them up, and let's kind of steer away from the actual funeral processes themselves, and let's talk a little bit about how possibly Hollywood is misrepresenting. I know this question was kind of touched on, but first of all, do you have any movies or television shows that are your favorite that that are about people within your industry? Because I know there's been several.
Yeah, Haunting of Hill House, I think, had a very big bit about
the 6 Feet Under. Fishing Up Daisies, and there was there's been several, but I know they've been kind of cheeky. Are there any that stand out to you that would highly recommend people watch or that you enjoyed?
I have been so disconnected. I remember Weekend at Bernie's was fun. That was an enjoyable movie. I was entertained.
That is your answer.
Hey, if a movie is made to entertain me, I'm going to be entertained.
That is amazing. I haven't thought about that in so long. Now I have to watch it.
I can hear the cabana boy cracking up upstairs right now. So I'm like, that, that was probably the best answer ever. Okay, I'm sorry. Um, so also from the other side of that, what are the most egregious misrepresentations about your professions that you see either in film or television or media?
Again, I'm an oddball, so I don't even have a TV in my bedroom or my house. So I don't really watch a lot of TV.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I like to
Okay,
read
no,
books.
that's fine.
So I read a lot of sci-fi. I have a few books that I read funeral related, but I haven't really watched any media since 6 Feet Under. That was kind of like the
Oh,
last funeral related media that I had watched.
Which is Eli just asked thoughts on the show. Hashtag 6 feet under.
I thought the first season was very, it was good. But then it started to get a little bit more into entertainment drama level and less
mhm.
like daily funeral level, which is what you have to do to keep the audience interested and engaged. And I know that's what they are doing, but I did lose a little bit of interest after a while. I kind of petered off.
Well, if you're into the horror genre at all, there was a show that came out on Netflix a while back. It was The Haunting of Hill House, and one of the main characters did your line of work. Am I
Really?
speaking the wrong name? Haunting of Hill is it? That's the right one, right? You're
I don't.
looking at me like I don't. Okay, maybe I'm making this up. Um,
Maybe I forgot something. My brain.
there's the
Okay, go ahead.
sister who the sister who
Oh,
died, and then the sister who is like the mortician, and she's like, I am going to be the one to do my sister's body. And then
oh
there's all
yeah,
of those like
actually right.
super creepy moments in the area that she works, like while her sister's body is there. It was very well done, creepy as hell. But the passion that she had for her job was, in my opinion, really well portrayed. So if you're ever in the mood for horror in your line of work, which you probably aren't, you're probably like, no, I don't want to watch scary things about what I do for a living, Lauren. Thank you. But yeah, that one I would recommend.
Actually, it was that. You are absolutely. So, by the way, I have been getting direct text messages, not only through the chats here, but I have people who are direct messaging me questions to ask. So that doesn't happen very often, but yes, somebody's like, nope, she's correct. You're wrong. I'm like, oh, okay. I had completely forgotten about her, that there was it was in the first season and I had completely forgotten about it, but, it is so Haunting of Hill House is actually based off of the Shirley Jackson Haunting of Hill House. And so it kind of follows suit there. And it was done very beautifully. It was extremely creepy, but I really liked it. If you do like horror, I would highly recommend that. And it is a classic story from a classic piece of literature. So one of the things that I have also started seeing, actually, I'm going to back up because I want to ask this question. No.
Sorry.
So being in your line of work, and we are a dark pop culture show. We talk about dark topics, and one of the things that we constantly have brought up are ghosts and hauntings. You interact with the dead on a regular basis. What are your thoughts on ghosts and hauntings?
So, me personally, I have never had a ghost experience, but I'm not about to invite that into my life. I stay away from Ouija boards. They are going out. Like they're not in my house. I do not want to be around them. I'm just not going to involve myself with things I don't understand. And I do have some friends that are spiritual practitioners and do house cleansing should I ever need it. But I have had a mentor say that that he had an avoidance of spirits because the other spirits knew what he did for a living and that they were not following him home, where he had a friend that had a spirit follow him home. But I have not experienced it, but I do not plan to invite it into my home or open a Ouija board.
Fair.
No, that's yeah. I'm just like That's me. That's me. Don't bring it home. Don't invite it in. Don't do anything. I'm actually between. I think everybody knows this by now. I'm the skeptic. It's like I have been around all kinds of things, and I can always explain things away. And it's usually emotions that are running high, and that's
Mhm.
generally what most people are. In my experience, that's kind of what we've been seeing. There are a lot of morticians lately that have popped up on YouTube and TikTok. And
Hmm.
there is one in particular that I have been very fascinated with for many years. But we're not going to call names or anything like that because I know that there's a bit of um, a scandal that broke out, and we're not really going to do a lot
Yeah,
of touching
there's
and poking on that
drama.
bear. What are your thoughts about people who will take your line of work and create like a regular channel? Now, some of these are addressing issues, some of these are answering questions. There is one in particular that I was actually very fascinated where her channel had a whole series of addressing questions by children that were presented by children
Oh wow.
about death burial practices and stuff like that. And there's more like the historic aspect of it that and
Hmm.
that's kind of where I fell into it. I got really interested in the historic aspect of it and stuff. But what are your thoughts about people who would go online and with this type of information? Is it something that you would ever consider doing? Is it something that would be a no-no for you?
I would not consider doing it full time because the job itself is full time. Um, that would be kind of like taking uh, an extension of the full time job and making it longer. I participate in a great many activities that are not funeral related, and I think I would like to keep that separation. What you mentioned about the children asking questions, I think that's something that does need to be answered. Children do have a lot of questions regarding death, and
Hmm.
I think it's good to kind of not like as a funeral director answer those questions, just having an adult in their life that cares to answer those questions or to listen to them in general, apart from funeral service. But that does sound like a pretty amazing thing to do. I've done a career day at one of my younger siblings' schools, just
Oh,
to
Hmm.
have kind of an interaction. Um, and it's pretty enlightening the way that children view the world. So.
It is.
I
And
would.
as a mom, I think that the idea of having someone out there who is answering it, I mean, you can tell your kid the sky is blue 5 million times, and they're not going to hear it sometimes until it comes from someone else. It just sometimes they learn from the parents great, and on other subjects they're just like, no, someone else teaching them works better, and that's perfectly fine and valid. So having someone to be able to be there answering these questions, like you can watch the videos before and be like, oh, I
Mhm.
like these answers, cool, my kid was curious about this. And I think it's a good way to open up communication with your own kids. As a parent, I'd sit down and watch it with my kids.
Yeah, as long as they're seeking answers, that's great, like, seeking
Yeah.
information. Again, one of my pet peeves is, like, never telling them that the person's sleeping. That's my pet peeve. They're not
Mm,
sleeping. Like,
No.
that's just yeah.
no.
And that's a hard explanation when you have little children to explain to them that they will not be coming back. Um,
Yeah.
we've had people on our show who deal with forensics aspects of things, and so dealing with kids in that type of environment and being upfront and honest and yeah, I totally agree with you. And yes, be as honest as possible. Um, okay, do we have any additional questions that are outstanding?
Time check. Oh wow, we're right close up there.
What? Okay, so I just had one that popped up, and then there's so we have two. So Sawyer St. Sin, we lost my mom in May, and in the moment, I was in my I
I
was
was
too.
2 in my
Um,
lost. It was hard for me to answer my son's questions.
oh, okay. So yes, I can see where, as a parent, trying to answer those questions would be very, very difficult. And as a mom who has had to answer those questions before, and having the cabana boy who has had to answer those questions before with a small child in our house. Yes, it is very difficult. And yeah, it's having somebody who can share that information and tell you how to present that information sometimes is a great idea. What would you tell someone looking to get into your line of work? What advice would you give to them?
Just say, be prepared to just work hard and have a just if you can like help people. Anything that you need to know will be taught in school, so you don't have to worry about like, I don't know this, I don't know how to embalm, I don't know how to do that. You just got to come from a core of, I want to help people. If you just start that and you just grow it. And so
It's interesting because I have reached out to you and talked to you about someone in my family who is interested in this line of work, and realizing that there is the hospitality aspect of it, because a lot of us look at hospitality and we're like, oh, that's restaurant, that's hotel industry. You don't
Hmm.
necessarily think about the grief counseling as the hospitality side of it. Now, something that I have found very interesting in I am part of several goth groups, goth lifestyle groups. I have found that there are a lot of people in the goth lifestyle that are in they're morticians, and that is something that has kind of thrown me for a loop, um, because that's not the person that, like you were saying, most people are very shocked when they realize that you're a young, vibrant woman working in this industry. And everybody that I've encountered so far has been generally young women that are very vibrant, outgoing personalities. And, they're working is have in your experience with people that you have interacted with, do you find that the goth lifestyle has a tendency to lean more towards people getting into that industry? Is it just they're more comfortable with the idea and the concepts of death?
I think it would lead back to like what I would say to somebody interested in it. I see a lot of people interested in it, but they have that negative self-talk, like, "Oh, I can't do this, or I can't do that, or I can't learn." Again, I think it doesn't matter what type of lifestyle you're in, whether it be goth, alternative, in any style of life, as long as you're wanting to come from the core of wanting to help people, just and then add the education and grow it. So I think maybe more people in the goth community are just ready to get those stepping stones and get the education, like tune down the negative self-talk, saying like, "Oh, I can't do it." Because I see a lot of people, not just with funerals, funeral procession, they'll say, "Oh, that's my dream job." Like, a lot of, not even just people that want to be funeral directors say, "Oh, well, I wanted to do this," or "This was my dream job," or like just tuning that negative self-talk down and just getting your little stepping blocks and just getting your education and going. Because like if you have that core that this is what you want to do, it's what you want to do, go for it.
Interesting.
Were there any
Interesting.
specific subjects that you were like, oh, I'm so glad I was good at blank because it really helped me out later with these classes? Because I find a lot of people are like, whenever they're trying to decide their career paths in high school, they'll look at what comes easiest to them. Some people it's math, some people it's history, some people it's science. Not for me. But are there any subjects that you were like, oh, this being a natural at this helped this
Mhm.
later on?
I think it's a mixture. So I knew from 11th grade that I wanted to be in the funeral homes helping. So I had a little bit of art, had a little bit of science, but not enough of both. Submitted my portfolio to Memphis College of Art, got denied. um,
Okay.
so I do have like a little artistic, like just being detail oriented. Making sure that somebody's nails are done, like just being,
Hmm.
like touching little details, but also having that science. Like some of the classes were easier, some were harder. Definitely, yeah. Had a lot of trouble with some of the sciences, but it was worth it.
Cool.
Amazing. So one of the things that we were kind of touching on, and I don't know if you would like for us to proceed further with this, but this is pretty much going to be the last of it because I'm getting the comment that we're over our hour, and we're going to kind of be. I know that went so fast. I'm like, oh my
So
god, there were
fast.
so many questions. And it's like we had lists of questions, people had lists of questions, and I know there was a lot of stuff that we did not cover that we really wanted to. Um, but so you are, as you mentioned, you're a goth model.
Mhm.
And you have been doing this for years. And honestly, we have got some absolutely stunning photographs of you. She,
See?
I
What do
know.
we have?
Okay, I'm gonna.
Oh, wow. Whoa, that
So this
dress.
was, I know that dress. And then there was another one of her in a yes, and this was actually at a runway show that was hosted in a nearby city. And I'm just, you know, I've being goth minded myself, and coming from a family that is very much goth minded, I find that these dark overtones have a tendency to kind of creep into our lives, and we have a tendency to lean into things that are a little more um, goth friendly, not necessarily just in our personal life, but in our private lives, and things like that as well. So, is there anything that you would like to share about yourself personally, that might kind of share a little bit more of the fun non-professional side of you, I guess?
Oh
What do you
yeah,
do in your spare time?
I have a
Yeah,
lot
what are
of
you doing
fun.
yes that time? Yeah.
Yeah, good work-life balance. I have a lot of fun times separate. Run the goth night. It's called Crypt. So I've been running that for a little while. It's down at the High Tone. That
Yeah.
there's a snow goth event on first Friday of December.
Okay.
So
Ooh.
it's fun to just kind of let loose and dance and have some good music, and that's one of the things. So, and then I'm DJing this Saturday, so I'm excited about that
Nice.
That
too.
is that is amazing. I have found in just my day-to-day interactions that I find that, and not that everybody's not multifaceted, but I find that people who are goth have a tendency to be a bit more multifaceted, because we have so many interests that are, I don't want to say extreme, but they're so different from everybody else's. Is
There's
that
a
a nice way
creative
of putting it?
aspect. There's a
Yeah.
creative aspect and like an
Yeah.
outpouring of yourself because in the funeral profession, you're giving, and then
Mhm.
and certain for me with the modeling, I'm kind of like giving back to myself, renewing the battery, and then going out and giving again. So I'm one of
Nice.
those what it is. I'm a hybrid car. I charge myself.
We all do. I mean, we all have to step away at some point and say, okay, I've had too many people. I've had too much of this, and now I need to focus on me for a little while. And it's good to see that you have that balance, that work life balance, and that there is something that is extremely creative and extremely fun to see. Because I know a lot of people, especially who meet you professionally, they don't see you outside of that line of work, so they don't ever. It's like a teacher. You go out into the real world, and you see a teacher outside of a classroom, and you're like, oh, that's not normal. They're
You
like, what
live
is that?
outside of the school?
No,
I know.
I see it bleed over into the goth nights that I run because I'm still like prepping. I'm still getting the music. I'm still like they say running a funeral is like running a wedding, but you only have 3 days to do it. So I love
Yeah.
event planning. I love event planning. So that does bleed over. I like to prepare things. I like to set things up. I like to bring people together, but I do it in a fun way.
Nice.
Oh, how Shelby says, hi, Izzy.
Aw.
Well, like I said, I hate to say this because we are
Yeah, we're
at the
over.
top of the hour, and this has gone by so fast. You have been probably one of the most amazing guests that we've had. Normally, we are very unhinged, we are very chaotic, and everything just goes in all of these different directions. But like I said, we're trying to stay a bit more reverent with our conversation, because everybody deals with grief and death a little bit differently. And it was wonderful having you. So, if people are interested in finding out more about you, or more about, we're not inviting stalkers or anything of that nature, but if you have any type of interaction with people that you would like
Social.
to draw to, yeah, socials, share your
Socials.
socials.
I think it was on my name tag. Wait, okay, yeah, it's on my name tag. Um,
Is that
Yeah.
your
Dragonfly
Instagram?
doll?
Yeah, that's my Instagram.
Oh my God, I couldn't find
Ooh,
you. I was
look
looking
that.
all over for your Instagram.
Yeah,
I
my
couldn't find
DJ
it.
name's the same. It's DJ Dragonfly. I'm not very creative.
I like it. I like
I
it.
love it. I do.
Dragonfly doll.
It's like everybody is like reaching out and following you now. So if you have an influx of people, that's all of us. So
Hi.
but thank you so much for being on. This has been it's actually been a treat. I have really enjoyed the insight that you had given to us and
You model for
shared with.
bunny designs. Sorry, I got excited. I love bunny designs. Okay.
Oh,
Sorry.
is that Lindsay? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
small
okay,
girl.
okay. All right. Her stuff is amazing. Okay.
No, it's so cute. All right. Anyway, sorry. You were talking. I got excited.
No. I was actually just saying thank you for joining us. I'm glad. And one of the things that I shared coming on is that this has been a process that you went through to not only be part of our show, but to clear it with everybody associated with your work to make sure that this would be okay. And this that really touched my heart when I saw that, because I'm just like, there's a lot of people who would jump on this and go, I don't care, we're just going to go talk about it. But the fact that you were so professional in the way that you handled that, and your huge write up about how you don't like to address these things out in public, and a lot of times that you are taking somebody out to sometimes cheer them up and to give them a good night following sometimes bad situations. And it just really it hit me. I was like, I got choked up reading that. I really did.
Mhm.
And I thought it was just very eloquently written. It was very beautiful. And I thought, oh, how amazing. I'm like, absolutely amazing. And I'm so glad that we have it. I feel like I'm gushing. Am I gushing?
You're a
I'm
little
so
bit.
glad I communicated that in a way that people could understand. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay. So anything else?
I think that's it. I think we're
Okay.
supposed to say goodbye now.
Are we supposed to say goodbye? Okay. By the way, yeah, thank you so much for joining us, and amazing night. And with that, I am going to say, as usual, pleasant scream.
I was waiting for the jazz hands.
Jazz scream. Pleasant screams. Bye.